afternoon, and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, and a fine Redemption Thursday to you and yours. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, go back and get caught up at your leisure. We'll post all 3 hours of today's program, as we do every day, to Apple Podcasts. Go get caught up whenever you get the chance. We appreciate you listening to the program. Really do. Tell others about it. It gives us a chance to grow as a show and reach more people. If you're so inclined, one of the ways to do that is to rate it 5 stars. You can email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter at jcameronshow. Hey, YouTubers, I hope you're doing well. Good to have you along to boot. North Carolina minus 13.5 over FSU. That's game 1 on the Redemption Thursday list. More on that in a bit. I think I can coax a wager out of my cohort. West Virginia minus 22.5. They're playing Kansas. Anybody playing Kansas gets my support.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
Georgia State tonight should be fun. I'll take them. I like them to win outright. +3 against Arkansas State. BYU minus 5 over Houston. Kentucky +6 over Tennessee. Wrong team's favored. Virginia minus 2.5 over Wake. Got to pick games, guys. Middle Tennessee State minus 6.5 against North Texas. Okay. A&M minus 6.5 against Mississippi State. We're going to ride the momentum with Jimbo. That's what I do. Dallas +2 over Arizona in the National Football League. The Red Rocket gets it done. And finally, Washington getting 2.5 points against the Giants. I just don't feel like the Giants should be favored against anybody at any point at all. And so I'll just take Washington there. I don't know. We'll have to explore 2-team teaser-pleasers. We'll see. I don't know that there's really anything on the docket this weekend, quite like there was last weekend, which made me feel so good about the slate. Won my 2-team teaser-pleasers. I had 2-team teaser-pleasers last week. Swept them. That's what you do right there. It's a good thing that I did because I got hurt on a couple over-unders. So
the over-under game has been a tough one this year.
Shaky this year. Mm-hmm. Don't really know what you're getting, man. And I've been awful on them. I generally like to take unders. I feel like the public in Vegas always shoot it too high, so I generally take unders. Well, it shows you what kind of dumbass I am. I had under in the Kansas City-Oakland game. It was over at halftime. I was okay. That's what we're doing here. Nobody's going to get stops at all. I figured that both teams would be able to run the ball, and then therefore you would shorten the game a little bit. No, dice. It's an aerial assault. Oakland's just going to throw it all over the lot.
Yeah, it's Gruden that screwed you on that one. Yeah, There's no doubt it was
on fire.
Mostly John Gruden because the Kansas City offense has been sluggish this year. Mm-hmm. There are times where it looks like it's in – hello, Siri. Thank you for responding to me.
Oh, yeah.
There are times that it looks like it's in full flight like it was last year and when they couldn't be stopped. And then there are games where you look up and it's in the third quarter and they've got 16 or 20 points and you're going, what the hell, Kansas City?
Yeah, you're like, what are we doing here? Begin today's show with good news. Coach Bowden is out of the hospital and home. That's good news. We wish him well. And looks like reports are that he's feeling fine. That's good news. Unfortunately, on the COVID front, we got more bad news yesterday, at least in terms as it relates to games. It does appear Nick Saban is asymptomatic and feels fine, but it did test positive, had to leave the facility. And so you have a situation where the SEC is cracking a little bit. I don't mean that in a negative light. I'm not saying, I'm not casting aspersions there. It's just that you have the situation where Kiffin noted that it's been a tough week for COVID at Ole Miss. You have a cancellation between LSU and Florida. Vanderbilt couldn't field a team for their game against Missouri, so they only had 56 players last week in the ass-kicking they took against South Carolina, so now that's a dicey deal there. So you just hope that people are able to remain disciplined and keep focused and keep their distance from the general student body. In some cases it could be trainers. We've read a lot of different ways in which this has gone down, but I'm not surprised we're getting disruptions. I'll say that. I mean, it does seem like only logical that that'd be the case, but you worry if it gets too bad, then you got to start shutting down and entire leagues for a week or two, and then you run out of wiggle room eventually.
Yeah, well, and it's not like baseball where you can stack 7-inning doubleheaders on top of one another to make it up later in the year. I mean, these games need to be spaced out somewhat reasonably. You see, obviously, that Buffalo has the tough task of playing a Tuesday, followed by a Monday, followed by a Sunday. That's not great for them.
Not what you do. Not ideal.
I think that's as far as the NFL would stretch it. But I just like the image of, because I feel like Nick Saban would be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to team meetings and or coaching with a TV screen.
Yeah, breaking the rules.
Yeah, like maybe we could call it the Phone Heroes Zoom line. And Phone Heroes, 2 locations, 833 West Gain Street and 2915 Cary Forest Parkway. They're one-stop shop. If your kid keeps breaking stuff off of Cary Forest and North
That's
Side,
where you go.
to
That's what you do.
2915. It's
Man.
phoneherotlh.com.
Proud of
But
you for working that in.
I feel like a GA would have to carry a TV on his shoulders, and he'd have to run. Take
From
me to
spot
this
to
player.
spot.
Take me to Williams.
Yeah.
I've got to yell at Williams. And so there's, Nick Saban on a TV screen perched over a GA's head, screaming at a player.
You. Or an iPad, maybe. Maybe it'd be a little bit easier. So 4-3 your final last night. Astros survive. Good God, bravos. You don't have to make it a habit of breaking records that have stood for over 100 years. Back-to-back. But when the Braves decide to lose a playoff game, it is buckle up, Charlie. Get ready to lose profoundly.
There's another T-shirt I want.
I mean, we made way yesterday for that pregame show, and they just ushered in a mountain of hurt. There was no reason for us to escort the Braves pregame show onto the air. If we had known all this, we could have said, well, get ready. They're going to brace you for a colossal ass-kicking in which you give up 11 runs in the first.
We're going to do y'all a favor. Stay on the air till about, 7 o'clock. There you go. It's more compelling.
That poor announcers crew. On the one hand, the broadcast team, as it's also known. On the one hand, they have ridden a great season 2 years in a row. They've watched an upper echelon baseball team. It's a good baseball team. The Braves are good. And, most nights it's probably thoroughly enjoyable to watch the Braves engage in a game of baseball because they're going to be victorious more than they're not. They've got exciting young players. They've got some frontline pitching at the top there. And you go to the ballpark thinking to yourself, okay, got a good chance to win tonight no matter who it's against. But, boy, when it goes south, geez, bend over. I mean, 10 runs a year ago against St. Louis. They break an all-time record, most runs given up in a single inning and first inning, every record under the sun there, and get beat down in the biggest game of the year and humiliate themselves. At least this time around, they're up 2-0, so you absorb this ass-kicking, which is historic. It broke their own record, most runs given up in any inning of any playoff game ever played, let alone the first.
Yeah, but it's easier to do that broadcast because you are up 2-0. Like, if you're the Braves announcers, you're like, all right, we're going to skate tonight, going to tell some stories, going to go in the Wayback Machine. We might put on the rain delay programming before
start
this
talking
thing's
about
over.
Terry Pendleton and stuff. You're just, rambling on about things. Or one time I was with Terry Pendleton. I mean, just
randomly, instead of saying ball or strike,
Yeah.
Javi Lopez.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Javi.
Tell me a story about Mark Lemke. I mean, it's just...
The big cat. Galarraga, I loved him. Great guy. TBS. The Superstation.
We need more Chris Chambliss and Bob Horner stories. Let's go. Yeah. Al Herbosky. So I feel like, I wonder, I almost texted Corey. I figured he could laugh this off because they're up 2-0. They are in the NLCS after all. But I didn't. I was going to ask if by chance this was like last year and you had a chance to attend said game. Do you get up and leave to an NLCS game? You got tickets behind home plate. You're at this game. You brought your kid. And the other team scores 11 runs in the first. Do you get up and go, or do you stick it out because the experience is what you're paying for?
So, but here's the question, though. So if they get out of this thing and they get to the World Series, 11,000 fans are allowed in that ballpark.
Right.
Is he going to shell out the dough?
He probably would, I would think, yeah.
But does he feel like
Brady?
he'd be jinxing the whole situation, given the last time they went into a winner-take-all game, important one, the Braves got spanked? So do you want to take that risk? Do you feel like you're bad luck? Especially when you're going to have to pay a pretty penny, supply and demand. There ain't much supply.
I got to tell you, the shame of last night isn't it is the 11 runs. It's the 11 runs in the first, so I take it back. It's not what I was about to say. This is the second part of that. You'd think after you gave up 11 runs in the first that you might get through a clean second. But you know, that maybe they're tired. They're just exhausted.
The
focus isn't there.
Let's move it along, guys.
Yeah, let's call it a day. No, they gave up a run in the second and 3 in the third. At some point you'd yell mercy. It's like Braveheart. You would yell mercy to the top of to the baseball gods at the top of your lungs.
Mercy, William.
It's 11-0, 12-0, 15-0. You're like, seriously? You guys just going to keep scoring? Are we going to give up 30 runs here through 5?
I'd say good. Punch yourselves out. Go for it. Because how often do you see, a double-digit run output the next day you see 2?
Well, I don't know. They scored a lot of runs in the 8th and 9th yesterday, too. This is ominous for Atlanta. We'll see. By the way, we got the game tonight.
No pressure on the Braves. Don't worry about it.
You like that build-up?
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw on the hill. Bryce Wilson. Feels like a mismatch. Feels a little bit like a mismatch, but you never know what you're going to get with a guy that hasn't pitched at all, hardly. Hey, listen, not a great book on that guy, right?
No, you get through the lineup a couple of times, and they're confused because they haven't seen your repertoire.
That's what it is. The repertoire confusion will lead to many a successful 1-2-3 inning, and the next thing you know, we're in the middle innings. The pressure shifts.
Yeah, your bullpen's fresh because you didn't use them last night. There it is. Stack those reasons. # for the A.
Well, I am curious what the answer would be. I guess I would stay if I had brought my kid. I'd stay. I'd wander the stadium if they allowed me to.
Yeah.
They let you do that.
What kind of exhibits do they have?
They let you do that at Raymond James at the Bucs game that I was at. You can wander. You can go all around the stadium. I mean, because it's such a limited number of fans in the stands, you can space out easily, and you can go into the team stores and do all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of afternoon we would have had at the new Braves ballpark had we witnessed 11 runs in the first. Because I'm not getting up in the first, even though it's 7 runs, then it's 8 runs, then it's 10 runs, it's whatever. I'm not doing that because I'm going to say, we're sitting right here to watch history, son. I want to say I was here for this kind of an ass beating, to see this inning, historic inning play out.
Excuse me, Usher, do you have any bars and grills here in this stadium
not
still
grills
open?
Not grills and bars.
Well, I'll settle for a grill and bar if there are no bars and grills.
But do you have any bars and grills? Where is that? Over by the restrooms?
Section 216. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Usher.
Thank you. Seems I'm not the first to have asked you. Steady stream of people making their way to the bar and grill. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. When Nick Drummond bought a home in upstate New York to restore, he knew the walls would have some secrets. He didn't realize those secrets would end up being worth thousands of dollars. Oh, but of course, thanks for sending that along, everybody. Drummond is an architect with a passion and talent for historical restoration. Last year, he and his partner left their home in Baltimore so that they could go to Cooperstown, New York. Seems like everybody's falling into stuff in Cooperstown, New York. They wanted to open a floral design shop. They bought a home. Next thing you know, they got to knock down the walls. They knocked down the walls, and what do they find there? They found cases upon cases of 1920s whiskey. Cool. Compartments are being discovered throughout the house. We still can't believe it. It's amazing. It's been sitting here so long, no one ever knew. More and more bottles are found everywhere. It's hard to say at this point how many bottles we have. My guess is half of the upright bottles, the upside-down bottles in each bundle appear full, likely because they kept corks as well. The other bottles dried out. We may have 20 or so full bottles, 7 bundles, says Nick. It's worth somewhere between $1,200 a bundle. $1,200 to $1,700 a bundle. So this house they bought has all these secret compartments. Somebody was a bootlegger.
Easily, 1920. That's your clue, right? Prohibition whiskey.
It's really cool. There's pictures of this store. You can find this stuff. It's online. When a 4-square home they had admired came for sale, they couldn't resist. They bought it. Needs tons of work. To bring back some semblance of glory, they began to pull down the walls, Tom, and pa-da! Look at that! Yeah, there it is.
That's a deep cut reference. I don't know that people remember that song anymore.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
I remember them standing on the beach with the bottles coming up.
That's who they were dealing with.
Mm-hmm. So, by the way, Keith Richards in his book, which is incredible, his autobiography, really, really recommend the read. He's brilliant and still has it. You wouldn't think so, but does.
Really?
Brilliant. And his gift for storytelling is tremendous, and he's got stories upon stories upon stories. But he got busted in Texas in the 70s with a guy he was driving through Texas with, and they had loaded the car with dope, and it's in the panels, it's under the seat, it's all these different places, and he gets arrested, and they take in the car, and they bring it to the station. They didn't send it off to, compound it, but they end up taking it, and he never saw the car again. It was stored in a garage, and he wonders aloud in the book, like, I wonder whatever happened to that car. Somewhere there's somebody with a car. It's like a 1970-something station wagon, loaded. If they never took off the panels, some poor bastard's going to be
smell when it rains.
Somebody's going to be driving down the road in that thing, get pulled over, and they drug sniffing dogs. It's not mine.
Sure it isn't, sir.
Sure, pal. Mm-hmm. So you just got baggie upon baggie of heroin in the panels of your car, but it's not yours.
Time for the cavity search.
They do that in the Simpsons. Oh no, Beavis and Butthead movie.
Oh really?
Cavity searches.
Oh, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They do the poor old woman and the old man. What the?
Wow, Beavis and Butthead. That's old school. That was some stuff I was not allowed to see as a kid.
It was brilliant. I can't get a feel. I guess I can. I don't. I really desperately want to talk about us winning a football game on Saturdays. It is starting to get to me a little bit here.
They could be in it. They could be fighting.
I challenge myself all the time and, say, let's be rational, reasonable. Let's understand on balance what's really happening here. In a weird way, if you have to go through the mess of this season, and we do, and I'm talking about the mess of, I guess, flipping your roster to an extent, and losing out on recruits and having a legacy decommit and then announce that he's going to be committing, making an announcement where his new commit is, or his new location is going to be coming tomorrow, apparently, because that's what Jennings said today. For all of the running kicks to the cojones that Florida State is taking currently, I guess you'd want to do it now in a forgotten, lost season that may not even crown a champion.
And in a year in which the eligibility doesn't matter whatsoever. So maybe Devontae Love-Taylor says, I've improved my stock. I can do it even more because I believe in what's going on here. So I'm going to come back for another year.
He certainly plays like it, man. He does. He plays with a lot of heart. I would invite everybody to kind of latch on to that because that's all you got right now is the guys that are buying in, the improvement from certain players. They're out there. You do see it. I really like this running back group. The offensive line's gotten a lot better. Cam McDonald's playing really well. There's no depth behind him, but he's playing really well. Devontae Love-Taylor, you just mentioned. There's other guys. Robert Scott. Oh, well, there's promising players on the offensive line, and they're improving all the time. You're just going to have to hit the hell out of that transfer portal, and that's not ideal, but it can help you with some stopgap measures at defensive end. I feel like we've been...
Can we find our Devontae Love-Taylor at defensive end? Come on, what do you say?
Well, what you find is when you're this far down, and maybe you've lost some guys, other guys haven't bought in. Maybe there's something going on that we don't know about. What you do find is that if you get a merely competent, slightly above average player at a position where you right now are in the minus category, it can look like a massive upgrade. When in truth, it might just be that. It's the value of the replacement player. You're getting somebody here that is somewhat competent, and they're replacing a player that isn't, and all of a sudden you look like you've radically shifted what you're capable of because, in truth, you have. It doesn't make them elite. Just means that you're now competent. I saw that with Miami.
Well, you have seen it with Miami. On offense, the good news is by this point in the season, I think we have answers. We have answers that we like. Our offensive line coach, certainly. We like the scheme.
Yeah.
We like the quarterback position now, certainly more than we did at kickoff of the first game because you got Jordan Travis and a couple of freshmen behind him. And the Altmaier kid who's committed and he's coming in. So you feel good about the future of the offense, and in a weird way, you feel good about...
We think he's coming in.
the present of the offense. But let's just say it's Jordan Travis and Purdy for another year, and they're battling along with Rodemaker. That's a legitimate springtime battle if we have a spring camp. So the offense, you feel like, okay, I can set this and forget this because it's going to be average to above average at minimum next year. We just don't know if we can evaluate the defense fairly. And I think that was your point on Monday.
That was my point.
I can't fairly evaluate it just yet. Maybe we'll get some more information soon. But I sure would like to be in a position where we know whether or not we've got to start over on that side of the football. It's nice to know that one phase is taken care of, and special teams aren't that bad either. Okay. That's two things you can get behind.
I've seen ample evidence of improvements in a lot of places. We're outmanned in some places. We're paralyzed by, I think, both being broken but also paralysis by analysis, as they say. I think guys are overanalyzing the game of football, and I don't mean our coaches. I'm talking about players who, are so worried that they're going to make a mistake because they've made so many or they've had so many things go wrong that they just can't commit. It's a lover scorn type thing where you're just afraid to ever dip your toes back in the waters. You're just scared to death to do something wrong. I don't know the answer to that. I other than you keep plodding along here and you try to instill confidence and you rep and you rep and you rep and you rep and you hang on to something that maybe they do well and then they have a little bit of success and confidence grows and we see more of it emerge. But I don't think this is the weekend for it. kidding me? Jeff Kemper Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Happy Redemption Thursday. We got here. Got baseball tonight. Got a cool football game tonight. Well, cool if you're betting on it. See? You see the game, folks? That's how it's played right there. You say to yourself, what game is tonight? What's he talking about? Georgia State, Arkansas State. Come on, that's a big one. It's a big one. They're all big when you add the juice. They're all big.
Feel good about it, or is it just to keep the night interesting?
No, I feel good about it. I do feel good about it. I like Georgia State here. It's my squad. Feel good about them. Getting 3, don't need the 3. Come get you some. Here we go. I'm going to be locked in this week, Tom. This is a special weekend at the Cameron household. Special weekend. May or may not be a big card this weekend. You know, that's perfect for us because you got a late game starting for Florida State, so there's a lot to do. We're going to be on the air. You are. I am. Don't know if you knew this. We're going to see each other bright and early on Saturday. It's time to get it on. Here we go. Florida State Tallahassee game day. You guys going to want to watch this show on YouTube on War Chant TV. Feel free to tip away. And then also ask questions. Little secret. You ask a question with an adjoining tip, it gets answered. That's how that works. And then from there, you know, our fan base at this point might start asking about songs or movies or books.
Sure.
But hey, it's fair game. And then we're gonna counter program. We're gonna have that puppy on at 10 a.m., 10 to noon. We'll get you started early in the day.
We will send you to your college football watching day, and you will be satisfied with the amount of pregame breakdowns. We're looking at this thing from every angle, every possible angle, all 3 of them.
Never thought I'd say it, boy, but I miss Pam doing those Purdue, Illinois nooners.
That time is coming soon.
Come on, Pam. Usher me home. I am ready to hear that voice as you welcome us into a noon kickoff between Illinois in Champaign taking on Purdue.
Yeah, well, it's the interminable postseason run for the Braves that prohibits us from going in the afternoon. It's annoying, so we decided, you know what? If you're going to start early, you may as well start when College Game Day's on because they sure as hell aren't talking about us. So why don't you put some morning programming on that does talk about us, and that's who we are, Tallahassee Game Day. Greater than signed College Game Day.
The good news is if they do talk about us, if it's not COVID-related or a prominent player deciding to leave the program, it's going to be positive. Because we've already firmly established who and what we are this year, which would be irrelevant. So the point would be, anything that happens, barring controversy or obviously, in this case, COVID is always newsworthy if an outbreak occurs. So obviously we see that with LSU and Florida and the cancellation of all that. But the next time that they'll be mentioning us on College Game Day will be to say, you know, there's some improvements going on in Tallahassee. I know they haven't won a lot lately, but have you seen the way they've finished games? Have you seen the buy-in? Have you seen that those guys are – they're buying what Coach Norvell is selling. I like them late in the year here to see a bit of a turnaround, and that'll really get them moving into the next year. We'll create buzz in that way. It has been so long, and really you got to go all the way back to the freaking 70s, late 70s, 1979. You got to go back to where, all of a sudden Florida State lets themselves be heard and known on the national landscape to where from that point forward, I know there's some hiccups in between, when the dynasty years begin, but you were at least mentioned in a positive light because this was a program on the rise. Part of the downside of being a dominant program and being so good for the better part of 30 years is that you're usually mentioned in a negative light. You got upset while being a double-digit favorite. Players got in trouble off the field, or you lost a big game to Miami. So that's kind of how that mentioning scale worked. Now we can be, look at that cute little program working its way back up.
Then they'll spend 15 minutes on Texas A&M and Mississippi State. They'll find a way to, like Houdini, explain how Miami was just a blip in the radar and they're still a contender.
Still a contender.
And then they'll go to the Pizza Hut Zoom cam for 5 minutes. So don't waste time looking for the morsel of them saying Florida State's improved. Just stick with us.
What's the Pizza Hut Zoom cam?
Well, they usually do the fan thing, where it's like they have the tent.
I think I'd change it as soon as that comes on.
Right.
I don't think I watched
Now
that.
they got to do it with the Zoom. Right.
It's like the NFL pregame shows. I mean, the only one worth watching is NFL Network. Like you don't bother with any of that other
They
stuff.
finally put them back in the same studio last week.
No, it was great.
Yeah,
like,
finally.
I watched the whole thing.
They got the giant desk. Because when it was the Brady Bunch, when they had the 4 blue backgrounds, it was terrible. They can't interact with each other.
No. This was good last week.
I don't know. What does Michael Irvin grab if he can't grab a colleague's arm?
He wanted to.
Wrestle it.
When they were playing, basically, it's like the dating game where you have to guess what your partner says when they were Rookie of the Year, and they were holding that up, and then they were, MVP, they were holding that up, whether Mooch was going to have Aaron Rodgers or whatever.
Yep,
it was good. It was good. And they're guessing based on not only where they played, like Kurt Warner and Michael Irvin, of course, both played, whereas Rich and Mooch didn't, so they're kind of trying to figure them out. That was a well-played game right there. We should do that one day on the air, you and me. I think we'd probably get most of these right. We could do a version of that where
just like picks or
where you got to guess what the other is thinking based on our knowledge of each other. Like who is the MVP of Florida State's season so far this year? Then you'd write it down on a card.
Right.
I'd write it down on a card. Who's the biggest disappointment this year for Florida State?
And you'd write down the marketing department for not capitalizing on more signage in the stadium.
Yeah.
And you'd be right.
And you would go
right.
You'd go, oh, no, Jeff, you know me. Come on, you better get this right. And I'd hold it up to the camera, and there'd be a ding, ding, ding. You go, all right, there it is.
Can we get some money?
Yeah.
Can we get some money for the university?
Who's the most overrated player in the SEC? Tom quickly scribbles Bo Nix. No,
Yo.
What would Jeff say here? Yeah.
Who's the most overrated player the last 3 seasons? Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. Yeah. Who would be the most overrated player on our defense? I know what I would say.
What you would say.
Well, yeah, and you know what I would say. Mm-hmm. He's not even rated anymore. It's not even a thing anymore.
Just put 6. And
oh, see, this is it. This is what we have. This is so. Could change. Tom's got a feeling, folks. It could change this weekend.
That's wrong team's favored. That's not what I'm saying.
I mean, hey, you make your case.
go from here.
Anthony Davis is about to get paid, reportedly opting out of his contract, and then will re-sign with the Lakers. Also on the NBA front, won't spend long here, but just want to note that Daryl Morey is going to step down as GM of the Houston Rockets, not because I care about that, but have you ever seen a picture of Daryl Morey? You know what he looks like?
Because I saw the news today, yes.
Man, that guy's living it. He's doing it. Slicking back the hair, eating too much, looking like he has some fun in his free time, growing out the beard. Daryl Morey's all right. I bet you want to watch a game with Daryl Morey. That's what I'm telling you.
It can get high for you.
Old Daryl Morey, he knows what kind of fun you can have with money.
It can get high for you.
I'm not saying I know that about Daryl Morey. I've never met the man in my life. Have no idea what he's like. But you get some of those. Just type it into Google. Go look at some pictures of Daryl Morey. He's done all right for himself. Daryl's had a good run. He's also getting out at the right time because Houston ain't going to win a damn thing. Not with that guy. Not Daryl Morey, but the certain guy I love to talk about. Ain't winning nothing.
I'm going to have to debut Coach's Laugh at some point, too. I felt like there was an opening there, but if I did it without context, that would have just been weird.
Well, let's make context here. We can introduce it to the program now. We've got a new clip that we're going to use when it's right. Now, this may not be the right time, but we do want to use this.
Well, when you said he gets down, that's kind of where the laugh might have fit in.
So whenever somebody, a high-profile figure or whatever it might be, gets asked a question that they really can't answer, makes them uncomfortable, but they don't answer it, but they answer it with either their facial expressions or their nervous laughter.
Right. Yeah.
You know what the real answer is.
Bleep, bleep for $1,000, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Okay.
Yeah, right. That's really good. So go for it. Here it is. This is going to be introduced on That's our current head coach. And that is really good, man. Coach, I had occasion to work an overnight last night. Where were you at about 3 o'clock in the morning last night? I was home. I was asleep. Okay. I had gone to bed hours earlier, Jeff. Okay. Because it certainly seemed like I might have seen you somewhere. No, he didn't. So in that context, right, sort of in that.
Anybody across sports who's in a
anyway,
precarious position.
We're just going to use it.
So, young man, we found some tweets that you put out there when you were 16 years old. Care to comment on that as you're going to go number 1 overall in this year's draft?
It's a toughie. That night that we were watching the draft, I believe at the CP, or was it Bumpus?
It was the Mask.
Yeah, the Mask.
As CP, Laramie Tunsil.
Had anybody ever looked so happy in their life? Good times abound, buddy. That's actually a response from Coach Norvell to a question that he actually appreciated from Aslan, I think, efforting to ask it in such a way to get him to make a mistake, and he appreciated the game, the question that was being thrown out there. But
it was Travis Jay's health and how far along is he in the process. And so Mike thanked Aslan for giving him the precise wording he could use to answer the question. That he is along in the process. Good job, Aslan.
I like the way that you worded that, yeah. Well, I actually don't, it's funny because on that subject, people get mad. I can sense your frustration at times with Coach Norvell's answers to specific questions about injury or timetables or whatever it might be. Especially, I think that's true in light of how open they were.
Yeah, they've gotten very comfortable with the new setting and the advantages that provides them in terms of gamesmanship. Now, I just wonder if this is the case where they're going to be cloak and dagger on stuff. If we were allowed to go see practice, would there have been an understanding that, listen, Travis Jay got hurt in the Miami game. Mm-hmm. He's on crutches. The world saw that, right? Anybody who was in the stadium and the press box. we won't be accepting questions moving forward about the fact that he didn't practice today. Like, I wonder if that was the way it was going to work or not.
Well, if you recall, now I will say this because this is something that was, I think, reported, if not mentioned here on the show, not long after we sat down with Coach Norvell and his staff on multiple occasions to get to know them, to have conversations, to eat lunch, to get the feel for policy, all that stuff. He addressed almost every situation, and he did address his answering questions about injury. And at that time, he said, listen, I had a situation at Memphis where a family found out about their son's injury because a reporter, before even asking me about it or talking to me about it, reported it at a practice that we allowed the press to.
Right. Yeah.
And the family found out about it online, and so I had to change my policy and also make it abundantly clear what we would and would not accept. I appreciate that, by the way, because the whole thought is let me find out more about the extent of the injury.
Yeah.
Let me find out more, because I'm going to have to call these parents. I'm the one who's going to have to talk to them and explain to them what's happened to their son. And it's only fair, right? Plus the HIPAA and everything else. So listen, if you see something at practice or you have or you have a question surrounding an absence of a player, I have no problem with you first asking me the question on the record.
On the record, yeah.
On the record, you can ask me, I noticed so-and-so wasn't at practice today. Is there anything to report from an injury standpoint? I noticed so-and-so got hurt today. Would you like to comment on his status? And he said, look, I may not know in the moment. And I'll tell you, I don't know that. I got to find out more, and then I'll address it. Or I may know something, and I can answer it the way I want to, but at least leave it open to me being able to contact the parents, which that makes perfect sense.
It does. I think there's no way that you could say, basically, as a coach, like you answer the question. Kid gets carted off of practice.
Yeah.
And you're like, he'll be ready to go for Saturday. No problem here.
You have no way of knowing that,
there's no way.
Yeah.
Because at some point that leaks. But my hope is that they don't get so comfortable with this. Well, you know what? After all, this isn't so bad.
This works out well.
Yeah. Hopefully next year when it's allowed to be around each other again, we can go see the practices.
Honestly, Tom, a lot of that is going to have to do, I think, with the way this year concludes. And I don't mean in wins. I mean, where are they at culture-wise? Do they feel like they've cleaned things up and everybody's pulling in the same direction? That there's a clear-cut understanding of expectations and procedures and how we go about doing business of preparing for football and playing the games and being part of a group like this. Are we all in? Or is it still a shattered mess? Is it still a work in progress? I think because to me, one thing that I really appreciated and have hoped to see again, and I'll continue to have to hope because we're not getting back in this year, was the willingness to document the climb, for lack of a better term. They use the phrase the climb. Okay, so I'll use it here. But they are excited about what they do and what their process is like and being on the same page. So much so that they couldn't wait for us to document that because, A, I do believe him when he says he likes to champion his players, promote his players. Now, listen, do I think it's altruistic? Do I think it's all because he loves kids? Partly, but I think it's also because he knows it's good publicity in the world of recruiting. The more stories that are written about guys who have succeeded during his watch under his coaching staff and have either transformed their bodies or elevated their place on the depth chart or, whatever, those are all things utilized in recruiting. Hey, you come here, this is what I did for him. This is what I did. Here, don't believe me? Read this story. Look at this. Those are all things to document the climb and the transformation of a program or a player. And that is, he gets that part of it. He understands that publicity is necessary to create the buzz he's looking for. And so I think he wants to do that. Now, so many weird things have happened during this year, and amongst them, players either defecting, leaving, transferring, whatever it might be, but also losses and injuries. And I don't know what the culture of the program will be by season's end. He's going to have to fight like hell in the midst of really troubling times to get this thing to a place where he'll feel comfortable enough that the press is omnipresent, documenting what's going on. Because if there are still more arguments and guys, yelling at coaches, you're not going to want the press to be there. So that's yeah, we're not there yet, right? Yeah, it's damn it, man. What a year. We're 4 games in. I'm like, this is exhausting.
It's all right. At least Terry got it together. Oh,
that's wrong of you. He did get it together, though. That's a good sign.
The catch along the sideline was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Far sideline on the TV.
Just the fight for extra yardage, everything about it. You're like, okay, here we go. That's a man fighting for his teammates and for himself and his team, and he's in. We got him back. All right, welcome back to the show. Of course, let's make an announcement that he's going to be out this week due to surgery. Damn it, man. hour 2, Redemption Thursday, Jeff Cameron Show. Thanks for tuning to it. Appreciate you being here. Hope you're well. Hope you're in a good mood. Hey, I saw this yesterday, I think it was. All winter athletes in NCAA Division I sports will be given an additional year of eligibility, of course, and we knew that. But also, you don't have to be 500 to compete in any of these bowl games. They are talking about the bowl games.
What? Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter. You can suck. What bowl are we headed to, Tom Lang? Where do you want to go, buddy?
It's a bowl season.
Well, bowl season action. All right, I'm headed.
What, all January? When are we doing this thing?
I don't know. I think they just say things to say them.
Haven't they pushed back championship weekends and stuff like into the second or third weekend of December already?
Yeah, we got weird sets of circumstances.
Like Army-Navy's going to occur in week 7.
Well, I will
with the new schedule.
Yeah, I will tell you this. I am getting increasingly concerned because, again, you can think however you want to think about the effects of the coronavirus. The problem is that no matter how asymptomatic student athletes tend to be when they get it because of their age, they are now spreaders. That's a problem. That's how outbreaks occur. And then there are those that are less resistant, and they get it, and they could possibly, we hope not, certainly, statistically, it's unlikely, but they could die. So you got to be careful. You have to be smart about this. And at the very least, even if you just care about the games being played, you've got to be careful about this. So you can't have what happened at UF right now or what's going on with Tulsa and Cincinnati. That game gets canceled now, we find out. And it seems like increasingly we're having these problems. See Nick Saban and the AD, and we'll see what happens. He's asymptomatic as of right now. That's good news. You want everybody to be when they get it. You would like them to not get sick. It's important, and it's always what we root for. But once you have it in that situation, of course, you have to quarantine because you're a spreader. You can spread it, and there are people who are susceptible. So, you know, these games can only get moved around so much, and I worry about it because the Big Ten's about to start. The Midwest is not in a good place right now with this.
Wisconsin opened field hospitals.
Yeah, so they got real problems in the Midwest at a time that they're starting the Big Ten next week. So I'm holding my breath that we're able to continue to play college football under the right circumstances. Obviously, everybody's safety first and foremost. And I think, again, just as we did before it started up, there's a way to do it. But, man, you know, when you hear about student managers mingling with the general student population and then hanging out with student athletes on a daily basis, which leads to a spark and an instant rise, and those guys having to be pulled aside and get chastised by coaching staffs and administrations, you can't do that. You've made a commitment here. You've got to semi-bubble the best you can while this season's going on. The players, certainly, a lot of them have remained committed as best they can to that, and knock on wood, that continues. But you can see a path where this gets shut down for a while. And it's true of the NFL, too, if they have people breaking protocols to the extent that perhaps may have occurred with the Tennessee Titans, et cetera. Listen, we're all elated that every day we sit here, especially on a Redemption Thursday, and I can give you games that I like or don't like, and there are matchups we really want to see. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing LSU in Florida, and that's a game we all would have been excited to watch. Instead, as it stands, does look okay for Alabama, Georgia. That's a big game. How much is Nick Saban worth? I don't know. Point spread moved from 6 to 4. I guess 2 points is the answer. If you got Georgia in 6, you're probably feeling pretty happy right now with the adjustment to that line, but
it's funny how they go through that, and clearly we are on nobody's radar whatsoever at Florida State anymore because they could have known the answers to the question of, you know, can I coach them remotely? Because Nick Saban was exploring that possibility.
Blew me away that this was the talking point. Like, guys, if you take a look around, you do understand this isn't unprecedented. It happened by the way, during a rivalry week for a primetime game in which the lead team was calling the game, and this was a central story surrounding the contest, that the head coach at Florida State was the first of the Division I coaches to get it during the season anyhow, and is going to miss the game, is watching at the house. They talked about it every 5 minutes. It was as if nobody knew, because your point is valid. Nobody is watching Florida State do anything right now. It let you know just how far removed we are from relevance.
Yes. Yeah, they're figuring it out. It's novel over there for the first time. They're like, wow,
what do we do now? I've never heard of such a thing. Oh, it happened to Florida State. Who?
Frozen juice on a popsicle stick. What are we going to call this? This is brilliant.
Yeah, that hurt my feelings too, man. What you say, it did. It resonated with me too. When I was listening to these folks talk, national pundits talk about, what are they going to do? Can he signal in? No, we already know the answer to this. We vetted this thoroughly already for a national primetime game that is a storied rivalry.
Yeah, agreed. I'm of the mindset that we're heading towards a place where whatever date you had etched for the college football playoff, push it back. Whatever date you had etched for the Super Bowl and the the NFL playoffs, push them back in your own mind. If they play on time, treat it as a reward, an unexpected pleasure. But I just don't see it. I don't see it. The NFL, listen, this is only swept, a handful of teams at most?
Yeah.
You had the Falcons today. I know they're trying to run down whether or not the 4 positives are all true because they put one player on the COVID-19 reserve list. I don't know if they verified that or not. But also, you've got to bring into account, they just fired their coach and their GM.
Yeah,
Does that change player behavior as to whether or not they really adhere? I mean, that's where the humanity creeps into this non-bubble situation, and you add the travel into it as well. It's just, it's a mess. I would think by the end of it, you're going to run out of bye weeks in both sports, meaning college and pro football. You're just going to run out of them. So you're going to have to push things back. If it doesn't happen, then great. Good news for us. But I'm there. I'm expecting that.
Yeah, I think it's safe to do that, by the way, because they postponed their first game to the SEC on Monday. Vanderbilt, which only had 56 scholarship players available in last week's 41-7 loss to South Carolina. Glad I was on South Carolina. I didn't pick it because of that, but boy, that would have really emboldened me to do so.
Close game at half.
Yeah, they can't safely play their next contest against Missouri. Then you had the outbreak at Florida. We talked about that on Tuesday, even though that Dan Mullen was imploring the administrators to allow them to pack the swamp, then had to backtrack on that, of course. That's empty. No SEC game there between Florida and LSU. Alabama announcing that Coach Nick Saban and Athletic Director Greg Byrne both having tested positive for the virus. Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin, whose team hosted Alabama just last week, hinting Wednesday about a spike in cases with his team, though Saturday's game against Arkansas, I guess, as of right now, is on track. It feels ominous there. I'd like to see that game played, but obviously only under safe conditions. Jeremy Pruitt telling reporters this week it's been a really tough week. So you're getting worried here.
Yeah, and it's not exactly the spike that I thought we'd see in the beginning of the semesters with kids on campus for the first time coming from all corners of the United States and internationally too, international students. It really didn't spike as much as I thought then. It's just been this persistent presence throughout. That's the hard part.
I wonder, I think the public, if we're going to talk about Redemption Thursday wagers and the like, I think the public will overreact to the Alabama situation. Listen, I don't know that anything changes much. Nick's involved in the game plan. Sark's been a head coach before.
85 million assistant coaches, one of which they can elevate to the field for one weekend. Yeah.
The only thing I'd worry about is Sark hitting the bottle again. The pressure really does hit you hard at that point, buddy. I mean, you got to monitor him. They're not only going to test him for COVID when he enters the building on this one.
Yeah, well, they've got to score, and they've got to score in bunches the way their defense is playing.
Like I said, that'll
keep you because you're focused.
I don't know. It's a lot of pressure.
Bryson DeChambeau doesn't feel pressure because he has to make all these calculations.
Yeah.
Sark is not going to feel it because I'm too busy trying to score 45 and win this game.
Well, that's a lot of pressure to put on a man. I'm just saying they better do some double tests when he takes the field. Hey, coach, you sound okay to me, but come over here for a second. That looks like a breathalyzer, just saying. I mean, we're about to take the field of a big game against Georgia here.
It is totally irresponsible, but it's great comedy in the 40-year-old virgin when he has to start the girl's car, Leslie Mann's car.
It's great comedy, yeah.
I was the stunning shock value. I was like, oh, my God. Here, blow into this, please. My car won't turn on.
No. Yeah. And the conversation that they're having while she's driving is spectacular.
Yeah.
It's Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. No animal attack video, nor near animal attack video, close call, if you will, gets unnoticed from our listeners, loyalists to the show, who will send it along my way. Now, this made national news. It was on CBS News, ABC, NBC, you name it. I saw this everywhere. It, of course, was all over the internet. It's stunning video. If you haven't seen it by now, it's in Utah. It's a cougar. In essence, telling this gentleman, you are not welcome down this path. And he, as everybody seems to do these days, had the presence of mind to pull out his phone and film the encounter with a cougar. I always marvel at that. That's the first thing that I want to point out here. First of all, thanks to the hundreds of you that sent me this video via Twitter and the like. I saw it early on. Once it hit the internet, I like things like this. I tend to find them. Almost, it's like the algorithms know, oh, this is right up Jeff's alley, let's send it along. On some platform he's looking at, Instagram, Twitter, the internet in general, he's going to come across this. Let's just send it his way. But thank you. And I did watch it probably 5 times over, because I kept thinking, as we all do in those moments, what would you do if in such an encounter? The first thing I thought of was, I would not grab my phone. I would not grab my phone. This gentleman did. I'm glad that he did. I hope maybe he had it out there because it's a gorgeous day on this trail in Utah, and he was just filming the colors. You know, my brother lives in New Hampshire, and right now it is breathtakingly beautiful there. Every morning he's out on his deck, and he just shoots me a panoramic shot of the colors in his backyard. He's got a lot of trees. It's unreal. Makes me jealous.
Is there a middle finger in the middle of the panorama shot?
No, it's like, another beautiful day. I'm like, okay. You know what? In a month when 2.5 feet of snow accompany that picture, then you go ahead and send that along. But it is beautiful. Anyhow, so this guy, you've seen it by now, I'm sure, encounters this cougar. It turns out, and you kind of could suspect it just based on her behavior, that in all likelihood he came across a cougar at the wrong time because she was crossing with her babies. And that turns out to be the case. We find out later on that, and that's got to be the worst, because I'm not an outdoorsman per se. You guys know that about me. But I have spent time on trails. I do like Mother Nature. I know that it also wants to kill me, so I'm very cognizant and mindful of my surroundings when I'm in the woods, because I always think, I feel out of place here. This doesn't feel like I'm supposed to be here. If I come across something that doesn't want me here, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. In particular, bears. Bears concern me. Bears are frightening.
Videos of bears in a full sprint
Oh!
are breathtaking.
I can't believe how fast grizzlies are when you watch them. You're like, oh, but you're done dealing. You always hear people, why didn't he run away? Psst, you got no shot, man. That bear's hawking you down with the quickness, and you could see the sheer size, the enormity of a bear running that fast. It reminds you like the best linebackers in football.
Yeah.
That guy's 280 pounds running that fast.
Right, yeah. Yeah, imagine Brock Lesnar running like Henry Ruggs.
Right. That's exactly.
And then size it up about 3 scales.
Yeah, you're going, I
That's
got no
a bear.
shot here. Yeah. So, but this thing widening itself out and doing as it comes to you like it's some sort of alien. I didn't know that's what they did when they were trying to scare you off. Now, I have subsequently read that a forest ranger said that, look, if that cougar had wanted to attack the man, he would have never seen the cougar. Because that's they are predators in the sense that they hide incognito. They wait for something to come by and they and that's your ass then, right? So he would have never seen that thing before it pounced on his ass, which would have been alarming. That would be a toughie. I'm in a jog in the woods. Here we go. Oh my God, there's a panther on my back. That's a tough one. But as it turns out, that's not what happened here. They had the eye to eye. I've seen 2 other videos like this. There was another one where a cougar, frustrated by a person's presence, slowly meandered down a hill, looking dead in the eyes. That's the scary thing. They look right in your eyes. It's like the thing we talked about with the freaking dinosaur bird.
The cassowary.
Yeah, where they do the kind of crooked eye thing, and then you're like, what the hell is going on here? So this thing was doing that, which looked awfully predatorial. But, this guy just kept backing up while he's talking to it. All right, go back to your babies. Okay, I'm leaving. Don't worry about me. I'm bigger than you. I'm big. He tried every trick in the book. He tried everything. Didn't work. Obviously, eventually, he just kept backing up to the point where she finally felt comfortable enough to turn around, haul ass, got back to her babies. But what would I do? Did you ever think when you watch this, and it would probably be the wrong thing to do. He probably did everything right, hence he's still here. But did you think, like, pick up a rock, dude? There are rocks everywhere around you while he's walking. Did you think about that?
That's what I would use the phone for.
Is to throw it.
Absolutely. If it leaps at me, I'm going to try and hit that thing between the eyes and then,
I would have.
Vote
I feel
for it.
like now you would have to kind of lean down to pick up a stone.
Yeah.
And that might be encouraging it to attack.
No,
that might.
you got to bow your shoulders out.
Yeah, you got to be wide.
You gotta, I mean, if you're filming it, whatever. I'm not going to do that.
I'm not filming it.
I don't need to film my death. Thank you very much.
I would be thankful to this man for having done so if that's the way it would have played out. Thanks for filming your death.
I would have said to the cougar, "Can you go to factory reset before, after you kill me? I don't need this moment captured before all." But I would have talked to it. You got to be calm. You got to be loving. You got to say, "What's up, man? It's all good. Taking a stroll with the kids, are you? No problem." Because you can't give off the fear. They already smell it, but you got to minimize that as much as possible.
I think it's a mountain lion. Is that the same as a cougar?
That's 601.
Big ass cat.
Thing that can kill you.
A big ass cat that looks very angry. Yeah,
That's true, though, with the staring. Like cats in general, even like house pets, like cats will stare at you longer than dogs. You notice that? Like if you ever do a staring contest with a dog.
Oh, yeah.
Dog will just
Dog's like, okay,
give
I'm
up
done
on
with
it.
this. What are you
Whatever.
doing? You're weird, yeah.
Yeah. And then the cat will just be like, "Yeah, what's up? Look at how many depths my eyes can look at. Look at this. Still looking at you."
They're spooky.
Yeah.
They're spooky.
They give you no feedback.
I've watched it a bunch of times over. It's not the best of the animal videos that we've seen, but it's certainly really good. Enjoy it. Enjoy the internet, everybody. That's the stuff I'm here for, as Rex Chapman would say. That's the internet. That and really sweet stories.
Yeah. Did you see the bouquet one? That was cute.
I don't think I did.
There's a couple, ladies lined up, bridesmaids, to catch the bouquet. And the bride turns around, walks, and hands it to one of the bridesmaids because behind the bridesmaid
Is the dude.
on a knee.
Oh,
That
there
was
you
awesome.
go. That is awesome. Okay. Well, now see, we just made your day, everybody. Jeff Cameron. Tom did. Tom made your day. There you go.
So we're crazy. Death row is the
That music tells you one thing. Besides, damn it, Eddie Van Halen's dead. Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com, going to join us right now. That sounded solemn. I don't mean it to. Hello, Lee. How the hell are you, buddy?
Jeff, how you doing? Sometime off the air, I'll have to relay a story I heard about Eddie Van Halen and a comedian living in his guest house, sort of a Kato Kalin, but it's still funny.
That is okay. I want to hear this now. You've piqued my interest, sir. Bucs come off a loss in heartbreaking fashion to the Bears. Thursday night games are always difficult to stomach. They're especially difficult to stomach when you lose them and you lose yet another outstanding starter for the season due to injury. This has to stop. I mean, if you have designs on going to a Super Bowl, which is what you're trying to do when you bring Tom Brady in, you can't lose potential Pro Bowl players for the season every time somebody gets hurt. It's fairly devastating, and obviously our best wishes go out to Vita Vea. Now you get Raheem Nunez-Roches, who's a good player but better as a backup than a starter, and the Bucs' road to the playoffs just got more difficult.
Well, you're absolutely right, Jeff. Thanks for having me on, as always. Not only that, but, he's a backup. He's a rotational guy. So you have to wonder what his stamina is to play, 80 snaps? I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, this Khalil Davis, who they got from Nebraska, late-round draft, they've been pretty high on him, even though they've never had him active. If I recall correctly, he's never been active yet for a game. But they've already said he's going to be in a rotation. But my first thing about Roaches is, the nickname is Nachos. He's a nice reserve player. Don't get me wrong. But the stamina, it's one thing to come in and play 20 snaps a game. It's a whole different animal to triple that amount at least. And how will that happen in the fourth quarter? How will he hold up? I don't know. Personally, and you hear Troy Aikman even talking about this. Troy, open quotes, make a play, close quotes, Aikman. And if you do that as a drinking game, be careful in the fourth quarter. Very careful. The thing that irritated me so much about the Bucs Thursday night was the fourth quarter meltdown. They melted down in the fourth quarter. Jason Pierre-Paul, JPP, came right out and said we gave the game away. And I can't disagree with that. Whether it was Bruce Arians going turtle, what happened to Mr. Risk It, No Biscuit? 4th and 1, you decide to kick the field goal instead of putting the game away for the touchdown. Brady forgetting what down it is. Just the fourth quarter meltdown. It was such a frustrating game to watch because the Bucs had that game in their hands. And combination of strange calls, strange elements, Brady losing his mind, and just sloppy play. It was very, very frustrating, very irritating. And you really hope that's not a sign of what's to come, because if you look at the next 7 games, that's a gauntlet, guys. That's a gauntlet. And I was hoping upon hope the Bucs would be 4-1, because if they played lousy through that gauntlet, they would probably still be 500. Man, I hate to say it, but I think that game's going to be. We're going to remember this loss to the Bears come December. I hate to say it, but I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't it? Tom and I were just talking about the schedule, and you look at the NFC South; it's wide open. Everybody not named the Falcons is 3-2, so you're all right there. They've all beaten each other, and this is going to be a battle to the end. I do believe that Carolina team is coming on. Obviously, that's a nice win for the Bucs, and looking back on it, the Saints found a way, and I actually feel better about our chances against the Saints down the line than I do right now of dealing with Carolina. That return matchup there. So that loss hurts, but you got to move on, and you've still got a good football team. How do you suspect they'll play? I want to ask you on the heels of Tom Brady being critical and getting after some teammates there on the field, and a lot of talk about the penalties and frustrations that he has. Well, that's why you bring that guy in as an unquestioned leader and to hold guys to a standard. What's been the buzz around One Buck Place and I guess in lieu of Tom Brady or on the heels of Tom Brady being very critical of the way they played the game last Thursday?
Oh, the Bucs are, asking, hey, that's Tom Brady, and that's the way he is. He has high standards, and the Bucs are brushing it off. I have to wonder if that's going to have some residual effect, especially if they lose the Packers. Now, it's one thing to get chewed out like Brady chewed out Jensen. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. He deserved it. And by the way, I got a picture. I haven't used it yet. I got a picture of Jameis getting after Jensen, juxtaposed with Brady getting after Jensen.
Sure.
So, like I say, it's not like he didn't deserve it. It's not like the offensive line didn't deserve it. They were pass blocking very well. And it's one thing to get chewed out like that because, hey, it's Mr. Six Ring. He has street cred. But then he goes out and pulls a Chris Webber, not knowing what down it is, on the worst possible time, the last play of the game for the Bucs, essentially on offense. And if I know it's a different game than it was 30 years ago. So the players, I have to imagine this crossed their minds, especially Jensen, especially the guys on the offensive line. Like, wait a minute, you show me up in front of my families and in front of my brothers on national TV, and then you go out and pull this, so you forget what down it is. What the heck's going on here, man? So I wonder if there's something creeping in guys' minds, like, hey, man, this ain't New England. Chill out. Learn how to count to 4 before you start cussing me out on national TV.
I got to ask you this. How healthy are the Bucs going into this game? Because obviously for the Bucs to be the team that we expected them to be consistently, they cannot have a situation like we've seen. Even Evans, he's been productive, especially in the red zone, but he's not 100%. That is very obvious when you watch him run. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Godwin has missed all this time, and they're just a different team when those two guys are right. That means all the complementary parts have a chance to excel because teams have to deal with the excellence of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Where are we at from an injury standpoint going into this game?
We'll find out in a couple hours. I know we're recording this on Thursday late morning. Arians has said repeatedly all week long he hopes to find out by Thursday if Chris Godwin's a go or not. Obviously, today is Thursday. We'll find out in a couple hours. So far, Godwin this week has just been doing running exercises on the sidelines of practice. He's at practice in theory, but he's not participating in practice. And that's not uncommon what the Bucs do, especially guys with hamstring injuries. They will have them doing running exercises on the sidelines, on a secondary field, as opposed to actually participating in practice. They're there at practice, but they technically aren't involved in practice. And I know a lot of fans, they get confused about that. So that's basically what's going on. So we'll find out later today about Godwin. Evans, maybe I'm saying this in a little bit of wishful thinking. I think they're holding him out just to play it safe, holding him out of practice. Evans is a warrior. I'm not too worried about Evans. That guy's just, he's a throwback. He would go out on one leg if have to, and he'd play. And so whether he's 100% or not, that's a different animal. I don't know that. There was clearly, like you said, you could clearly tell against the Bears. However, he was, he's very effective in the red zone. I think he has the most touchdowns in the NFL in the red zone, tied for first. So I think he'll play. I don't know about 100%, but I think he'll play. What's interesting to me, and maybe I hate to say this is a good thing, I don't want anybody to be hurt, but with the Packers, they've got a couple of very good young corners. I think they're third year in the NFL. Jair Alexander, Kevin King, both those guys are also dinged up. So, if Evans is not yet 100%, and let's say Godwin, if he does play, I don't think he'll be 100%. Well, the Packers secondary is exactly healthy. So that kind of evens things out a little bit. Carlton Davis is a concern. I know he's guaranteed for a holding call or pass interference once a game. I can overlook that if you ball out. And so far, Davis, dating back to end of last year, he's been balling out for the most part. So I can live with a penalty of a game from him as long as you're shutting guys down.
It'll be an interesting game. It's weird. We're doing this show, a good distance removed from that Bears game, so it's hard to focus too much on what that was. It's the look ahead, and I look forward to watching this one play out. Lee, we'll have a chance to talk again next week and get back into a rhythm here. Be well. As always, I would invite folks to make their way over to JoeBucksFan.com to learn the latest, and of course, we'll continue to tell everybody about Bill Curry Ford. Be well, sir. Talk to you soon.
Hey, Jeff, thanks as always. Have a good one.
All right, take care. Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website. Yeah, it's kind of a weird edition of the Scuttle Bucks. We both would admit that. That game was a Thursday night game. It feels like eons ago, and you're just waiting to find out: are guys healthy? Are we where we need to be to compete in this game?
Yeah, you could talk about the Brady thing and how he forgot what down it was, and it might be covered a little bit differently if last year's quarterback was doing it. I don't know, but that's the icing on the cake. To me, it was like I don't even worry about that fourth down play because I think that was closer to 4th and 2. I know what the stat book would say, but we never got a clean shot before the field goal attempt of where the ball was relative to the line to gain.
That's
and
right.
I think it was a long 1 to a 2. You trust your defense there for crying out loud, and they got off the field. It was the roughing the passer call that changed everything about the field position.
That's the hidden yards of the game, and it's really aggravating, but it's not unique to our game. That's just the way that the NFL calls games these days. I think they frequently affect the integrity of football, especially defensive football. I'm not the guy that's standing in the yard with "get off my lawn," hey, the game's too soft these days. But frankly, it oftentimes is a ridiculous out for teams on third down. You see this all the time, both with the pass interference call and the roughing the passer call all across the league. They want offense. They want sustained drives. They get ticky-tacky on third down in particular all the time in this league.
Yeah, that's 30, 40 yards of field position.
That's a crazy difference.
And what happens is, right, now that first down play call when we have it in our own territory late in the game with a chance to ice it, that's telegraphed all the way, and Jesus. If you actually were paying attention to the earlier flow of the game, the left side was where we're getting a better push on the run.
Yeah.
In the run, we went right, get stoned, and that's the end of it. It's just, man, that changes everything because if you go 3 and out on your own 35 or 40-yard line, they're not going to win that ball game.
Probably not. You pin them, yeah.
So the Brady thing is annoying, but I don't look at it as the pivotal moment.
Well, I don't think it's certainly not why we lost the game.
But he had an outlet underneath to get a damn first down. We would have had the ball spiked with about 12 seconds to go with a chance to get 10 more yards and kick. I mean, that sucks.
More of the Scuttle Bucks when we come back. You know, I am intrigued by that Bucs Packers affair, and we thank Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website, for joining us on the program talking about that game. But a lot of that conversation centers around quarterback play. Actually, much of the Scuttlebucks does. You can hear the Scuttlebucks later on tonight. Right after this show ends, we'll head over that way, and you can listen to the Scuttlebucks, and that'll take you up to the Braves game.
Also airs Sundays at 11 a.m., so you can get your pregame on before the NFL, and then we kick off at 4:25 this weekend. I do believe coverage for 4:25 kickoffs on the Buccaneers Radio Network is 3:30. So we are you're home for the Bucs, that's for sure.
Yeah, and they're an intriguing team with a lot of question marks right now, so I'm fascinated. By the way, I got to pick against my mom tomorrow. She picked up another game on me this past week. I took Indianapolis. She had the Browns. Browns big. There it is. I'm down to just a 2-game lead after once being up by 5. She did the same thing last year where I was threatening to run away with it, and then she adjusted nicely. Her in-game adjustments are solid. I got to get it together. I'm going to have to self-scout. I don't know what I'm doing here lately.
Get it to halftime tied because we're going to beat that ass.
Yeah.
We are adjusters.
Doing some things right now. So quarterback play interests me today. If you guys have been on the interwebs, in particular, the place known as Twitter, or really, I suppose, even message boards over there at warchant.com, you've run across a couple of different rumors. Some involve players that maybe are disgruntled, or the worry out there that there are kids who are going to take it on down the road. Well, I think when you're 1-3, isn't that what we are? I lose track anymore. I really am not concerned with the record. When you're 1-3 and you're in the midst of a lost season and a turnaround, and the program's in upheaval, you're going to get people who are disgruntled. You're going to get people who are confused. You're going to get people that are angry. You're going to get people that think that there are greener pastures, and perhaps there are. So, I get it. Every case is an individual case. Some are leaving for reasons that have nothing to do with the problems here and everything to do with the man they see in the mirror. And others are leaving because perhaps, rightfully, they'd be better off somewhere else. So we'll see if that actually plays out. I don't know, but these rumors are cropping up more and more every day. And frankly, as a program, or as those covering the program, while we do have constant contact if we want it via Zoom meeting with the coaches and their appearances and Q&As, I still feel like we're at a great distance because we can't even be over on the sidelines for pre-practice warm-ups. You don't get to see anything. So if a kid doesn't come out to practice, you don't see it. They have time to figure out what they're going to tell you about that. They're not getting ambushed with questions of, I noticed so-and-so wasn't dressed out today. Why is that? Well, nobody could have noticed that because there's nobody over there to see it. So we really don't know what's what and what's not. It's carefully crafted. I'm not accusing them of anything. It's just the nature of the beast this year with COVID. Now, on to the quarterback conversation, which does intrigue me because there's no doubt, it's abundantly clear via their social media accounts that the Purdy's are on their way into town. They were all on a flight today. They took pictures of themselves on the flight today wearing their FSU gear. There are direct comments made from, I believe it was his sister, to Chubba. We're on our way. Can't wait to see you. That's on social media as well. So that, in turn, caused a lot to wonder, are we going to see Chubba Purdy this week? Is that the reason they're making the trek? Is that he's finally healthy, he's finally repped enough that the coaching staff's going to feel comfortable putting him in the football game? And that's interesting because Jordan Travis played really well against Notre Dame. And Jordan Travis has, because of Jordan Travis's play, they have an identity on offense. Frankly, he has given them an identity on offense. And I would think the game plan this week is very similar to the game plan last weekend, which was to utilize his legs to stay ahead of the chains and give yourselves a fighting chance. If he's playing well and this is relatively close, and there's no reason to think that he won't play well right now and that this game won't be in the balance at halftime or whatever, would you play Chubba Purdy? Because I think there's a yes and a no there, and I think both are equally compelling. I think that the yes is, look, man, what are you really playing for this year? I mean, if you're playing for any sort of regular season prize, it doesn't exist. There are no divisions. You're out of it before it started. You have no chance. You've already lost 3 times. you've got to get kids experience. You got to figure out who you can win with and who you can't. Who needs to take it on down the road? Who needs to stay? Who's going to be here? How are you going to put together your roster? Do you have an answer at quarterback? Is Jordan Travis that answer, or is it perhaps Chubba Purdy or Tate Rodemaker? Is it the Altmaier kid coming in next year? You know, you can't find that out until he gets here, but you do have to play the guys you have. So it may not be a satisfactory feeling to be in a close game and decide, hey, let's get Chubba Purdy some work. That might piss some fans off if you got a chance to win a game and he goes out and looks like a true freshman. At the same time, you know, what's to be won here? You are playing for next year. And he is, by all accounts, a guy that is in the running to be the starting quarterback next year because of the skill set that he brings. He's supposedly a bigger, stronger, faster, better throwing version of Jordan Travis. Let's get him ready if that's the case. On the other hand, you know, I can understand that you want to ride the hot hand and see if you can't win some games here. Help with the recruiting in that way.
And help with the current roster to stick around a little bit more because they've invested, I'm sure, in a brand new way. They've got a new lease on life on offense because they feel like they've got somebody who can pay it off. Mm-hmm. All the hard work, all the timing, all the discipline is necessary in order to be put into a position to succeed, and Travis can get you in a position where maybe the football ends up in your hands on time. If you're a receiver,
sure, yeah.
You know, you're going to try harder on the perimeter to make blocks knowing that he's going to feed you the football too. With James, it was just like, well, where do I start? And I think that's how we felt about the football program when James was a starter. Where do we start? Because we've got all kinds of issues. You know, the things I would say that indicate that maybe they take a shot with Chubba at some point would be that Mike has never been committed to one quarterback.
No.
Never. It was James to start the first week, and then after that, the language has been ambiguous at best the rest of the way.
I give him credit for that, by the way. He has said all along the best quarterback's going to play. Those guys are at practice. We're going to play the guy that gives us the best chance to win. Listen, how committed would you have been after that Georgia Tech game to James Blackman? You couldn't get up there in front of the press and say, well, you know, James had a tough day, but we feel good about him moving forward. You're not going to say that. That's disingenuous.
But when he announced that Jordan would start against Notre Dame, he said he certainly has played well enough to earn the start this week and maybe the next couple of weeks. Like, it wasn't, he's our guy the rest of the year. We found him, guys. Search over. Everybody just put it, it's Jordan Travis. And, well, some coaches will do that.
Yeah.
They'll declare and they'll say that is definitively what's going to happen. The other thing is, when describing Chubba yesterday in his final Q&A of the week, Norvell did say that Chubba Purdy got extended work in practice. He's not trying to say that as red flag, guys. Guess who's got extended work? He just said it as he was describing the situation for the health of all the quarterbacks. So, maybe, logical explanation, two of them. Number one, Chubba's going to get in this week, and they've got some stuff for him. That's option A. Option B, Chubba has been told he's the primary backup. And given that Jordan Travis could go down at any moment, his injury history would suggest as much that he might get banged up at some point in this game. If he's one snap away, maybe that's reason enough if I'm Chubba's family to get on a plane.
Well, yeah, he's finally healthy enough to be in a position to be the primary backup like you just described. That means, by definition, there's a chance he gets out and plays because, as you noted, Jordan does get banged up. They run him a lot. And if you're the backup quarterback, let's say, hey, knock on wood, this is the reason. Let's say Florida State's up big. You're going to play him. Let's say Florida State's getting blown out. You're going to play him. So he's got a lot of avenues by which to get into the football game. Injury, getting blown out, winning the game.
Coach rhetoric around it.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. I don't know. I would be somewhat surprised at this point if he, certainly he's not starting the game. But is it a case where no matter what the score is, he's hell-bent on getting Chubba Purdy into the game in the first half during meaningful snaps?
Unless this is a Jimbo-level smokescreen where, Jordan has not been available all week in practice and it's Chubba all along.
That's an interesting conspiracy theory there, Tom.
It's pointing to history, something that happened in the past.
With a previous regime. That is true.
With a previous regime.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show 97.9 ESPN Radio. Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. Appreciate you. Happy Redemption Thursday, everybody. We got here. All right, it's Thursday. Let's go. ESPNTallahassee.com to listen to the show via the streaming. You can email if you'd like, JCS at 979. ESPNradio.com. On Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you're well. Everybody feeling strong? Everybody feeling good? Coach Bowden's back home, Tom. Did you see that? I think everything's good with him. Congratulations. We wish him great health moving forward, and it's good to see. Good to see. I'd like to believe we're all making strides here, at least in terms of dealing with hospitalization and mitigating symptoms. You're seeing that a little bit more now, and so I'm not going to get into the whole COVID discussion, but there are more positive outcomes than before that I'm seeing on a regular basis, which is really good. You don't want anybody to get it, and it's still dangerous, and it's all that stuff. But you're seeing a lot of people get the help they need in hospitals, get out of the hospitals quicker. That's ideal. So congratulations to that's a weird thing to congratulate somebody, but best wishes to Coach Bowden and his family.
Well, given his age, I think congratulations might be in order.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at. Yeah, you're right. Given his age. All right, picks time. Here we go. Redemption Thursday wagers. North Carolina. I went right to the top. I went right to it. Tom, I want you guys to know, Tom made a compelling argument against me this morning. We sit down together sometimes and we go through the outline of the show. Now, this is a very conversational show, and I've always wanted it to be that way, so we don't get bogged down in the segment-to-segment details. We have certain check marks, certain things that we have to hit, certain ideas or concepts or things that we're going to cover, but we don't get into the minutia of, hey, then I'm going to say this and you say that, and maybe we'll go here. No, this has to be a free-flowing thing. So this morning, I said to Tom, well, I've figured out my picks. And I said, I'm going to get right to it. I can't believe I'm getting North Carolina given less than 2 touchdowns. And so I'm going to give North Carolina. And listen, this isn't personal, folks. This is a business. When you get down to the nitty-gritty of wagering in your real life, or even when I take it serious for charity like we do here, obviously the bets we do here are about non-perishable food items to the charity of your choice. I'm looking for winners, Tom. That's it. I want to win, whether it's for food items for charity or real cold hard cash with my bookie.
Pay him.
That's right.
Pay that man his money.
So I see 13.5, and I say that's easy pickings. North Carolina, good offensive line, an elite backfield, a plus quarterback going against our sorry-ass defensive line that seems disinterested, a confused defense on the whole. Don't know how Florida State keeps this thing close. Give me North Carolina minus 13.5. Tom said, hold your horses, Jeff. Now, he too can be objective because he's a sporting guy as well. Do we really know, he says to me, that North Carolina's any good at all? Okay, you have my attention. So I continued to listen, and you broke down the schedule for North Carolina and what those teams have done, and then you kind of looked at who we faced, and Miami and Notre Dame, a little bit of a tester compared to what's happened with North Carolina and the teams they've faced. And so, you made a compelling case for Florida State University to rise up and cover the number. You even made a compelling case for them to win the game. Would you like to put perhaps some tall boys on the line for this here game?
Okay. So to clarify a couple of things, most of that is accurate. The one thing is I made these comments and I made this case to stay off the game. Not to necessarily bet the Florida State side. It's just there's a lot of noise.
You sounded like you were really compelled to bet for Florida State.
There's a lot of noise in the system because you've got Florida State playing against a Notre Dame team that was coming off of a few-week layoff, and so there's rust, and obviously you could see that with the muff punt early on. The strip that's a legitimate strip of the football. I don't know about that being.
Yep.
But the Miami opponent is better than most of the teams that North Carolina has seen. And if you look at like this, you go through the transitive with who North Carolina has played and some of the results, Virginia Tech and Boston College. I mean,
Virginia Tech.
God almighty. And they're coming off a 7-6 season. Like, yes, what they do best matches up greatly with our biggest
what we
weakness.
Don't do well, right? Yeah.
But you could potentially play ball control with them, and we have seen better offensive play than certainly North Carolina has. So the defense is prepared to a degree for what is about to be run on them. And wouldn't you argue that Notre Dame's offensive line is better than North Carolina's? I think the backs for Notre Dame are better than North Carolina's. We're going to see this weekend. the quarterback, you could make an argument, obviously, that North Carolina and Sam Howell are better than Ian Book.
I would make that argument.
But the hard part is, we've existed in a totally different stratosphere. You can't find a common opponent to tell me definitively that North Carolina can run away and hide from us, because they don't blow anybody out. They'll get up to a big lead and they'll cough it all up, and it'll be an interesting game late in the game. BC, they should have beat by multiple scores. Are we sure that BC is better than a 6-6 team in a regular college football year?
Probably not.
Okay. How is it that North Carolina is basically tied with them late in the game, 26-22, because of a 2-point conversion going the other way? How is it that Virginia Tech can rally from being way down with, I know they like Hooker, the quarterback, and that's his name, Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, he's good.
Right. But that guy's brand new to the system, and they've had a ton of COVID
issues,
practices and issues where they're missing huge swaths of their roster, and yet they can amass that many points on North Carolina in short order. North Carolina doesn't blow anybody out. So 13.5 on the road's a lot.
I think you're hearing it, folks. He believes Florida State's going to win and win big. Listen to the case being made right there.
You came with the good stuff, natties.
What other conclusion can be drawn from Tom's compelling case other than that of a Florida State victory? At home on a Saturday night, electric like it used to be. We're hearkening back to the good old days, Saturday nights at Doak Campbell. I know, limited number of fans, but you can hear it in his voice. There is a rallying cry from Tom Lang. I've got to jump on board. I'm not there yet. Listen, I want our beloved Noles to win every game. But I am a realist. I'm a man of pragmatic tendencies. That's me. And I don't see it because I don't have the evidence that we can get stops. I think the argument to be made for Florida State covering is what you noted, our offense, starting to have an identity, starting to play within the context of what that is, Jordan Travis's legs, staying ahead of the chains, allowing him to make throws where it is questionable as to what Florida State's going to run, meaning they're at a third and obvious. That is the formula. And if you do that, you can win it one of two ways. You can win it in a shootout, a crazy game, 42-38, something along those lines, or you could limit possessions by 11, 12, 13 play drives. I mean, they did possess the ball to the tune of 71 plays against a better defense at Notre Dame than North Carolina has.
41-28 final that Florida State loses. See, the point of my argument is to make you cross-eyed with, I'm not so sure. This is volatile because North Carolina will look fantastic at different points of all the games they played. And then they just look like ass for a full quarter. And you're like, what gives? If I'm a North Carolina fan, I'd be pining for more consistency out of what should be an explosive and consistently explosive offense. The way they started against Syracuse, the way they finished against Boston College. There's enough out there for me to say, that's a whole lot of points.
A couple of things with North Carolina on a serious note. North Carolina has been missing a lot at the back end in their secondary. They were also missing their best defensive lineman, the Vohasek guy that is now said to be back this week. That's not good news for us. He's a big deal on their defensive line. They get their best offensive lineman back, so that unit's now back intact. They have two dynamic runners at running back. So, you know, it is a tough game to call, and if you're only talking about the number, which is what we're talking about on Redemption Thursday, I do think you make a compelling case for Florida State to cover that. I'm just not siding with you. I'll take North Carolina. The bet is on. We'll go ahead and do it. Tall boys it is.
Tall boys. Somebody's winning, tall boys.
Somebody is. West Virginia minus 22.5 against Kansas. I always do it every week. We take anybody playing Kansas, and we cover. We beat that drum slowly, and we collect our checks, baby. That's what we do. It's the field versus Kansas.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
Admittedly, Vegas is beginning to adjust. They have begun to see what I knew all along, which is that Kansas is pure ass. That is what they are.
You've heard of Purell? Well, they're pure ass.
That's what Kansas is. One of the worst programs in the great history of college football. Georgia State tonight. Let's get a little action. Is it tonight or tomorrow? Is it tomorrow night? I got to double check that.
It might be tonight.
Let's get a little action. Let's get a little juices flowing tonight with Georgia State. I like them to win the game outright. What do you think of them apples? +3 I'm getting. Don't need the points. I'll take the points. Let's do this thing. +3 against Arkansas State.
Wrong team's favored.
Wrong team's favored. In our October to remember.
I believe we call it Locktober, sir. That is tonight, 7:30 ESPN.
Let's go, Georgia State. Let's go, Georgia State. My faith is in you. With you is a better way of phrasing that. BYU -5. Tom's second favorite team.
Oh, yes.
Loves him some BYU.
And I hate caffeinated beverages.
-5 versus Houston. Let's go, you fighting Mormons. Kentucky's getting 6 against Tennessee. I think Kentucky wins the game outright. Wrong team's favorite, Tom. Wrong team's favorite. We got another wrong team's favorite there. Give me Kentucky.
Locktober.
There it is. I'll take Virginia. I'm not a big fan. We haven't mustered it up in a while, so here we go. Here comes Virginia. Shaky.
Yeah, we didn't pick a key.
We were a little all over the map there. I was higher than I normally am. You were lower
so I had
than
to
you
adjust.
normally.
Yes,
I don't think we were there. Well, this season it's 2020. How are we supposed to be there? Nobody's there. Virginia -2.5 against Wake. I'll take it. Let's go Hoos. Middle Tennessee State -6.5. Nope, I did not go to Middle Tennessee State. That's Etsu, folks. But Middle Tennessee State, inferior to East Tennessee State, is giving 6.5 to North Texas. I'll give all 6.5 points to North Texas. I'll take Tom just raised an eyebrow. I'll take Texas A&M -6.5 against Mississippi State. The fighting Jimbo's got it rolling.
No. So the Mean Green.
Mm-hmm. You want them?
North Texas.
Yes.
And they're playing whom?
Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That is the red alert, everybody. Every week. Come on.
There it
By
is.
now, if you haven't picked
up on it,
there's 1 or 2 a week where you go, what in the hell? And usually the guy across the glass blows through that pick real fast.
Just try to keep it moving.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
Yeah, that may be on the card. Might be. And the NFL, it's a weird week. I think you can have a little fun with the 2-team teasers, pleasers. We had a 2-team teaser pleaser last week. We did 4 total teams.
So,
2-team teaser pleaser.
This is that's the name of the bet on that site, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Is that the same
well,
one?
No, I added a line in that. That's
okay,
not,
so
no.
they don't have the word pleaser.
No, I threw pleaser in
I was
there.
going to say, what is with this site with the salami?
What site are you on, Jeff? Where are you placing these wagers? No. I added
It's
pleaser.
a one-stop shop?
I added the word pleaser. 2-team teaser pleaser. It just sounds good.
Onlyfans.com/2teaser pleaser.
You can have it all. I'm giving you just the one. So there it is. 2-team teaser pleaser in the NFL. I'm going to take Dallas getting points. This is not a teaser. I'm picking them to win the game straight up on the money line. Take the Cowboys. The Red Rocket going to get it done against Arizona, and we're getting to.
That's another big win for the Cowboys.
There it is. Washington, the football team, getting 2.5 points against the Giants. I don't feel like the Giants should give points to anybody at any point, not even the Jets.
But there's your NFC East 2-team teaser pleaser. You could get Dallas
Could do +9.
at +9, and then you get Washington at +8.5. It's a beautiful Sunday.
You could do it. I don't trust Washington that much to make that a 2-team teaser pleaser.
Okay, all right.
I would. There are some. We got Joey coming up. Joey St. Germain. We'll ask him if he's got any teasers out there. He likes to alert us to the fact that there are some teasers out there on the board to be had. You and I, during that same conversation when you thought that Florida State was going to beat North Carolina straight up, we also looked at teasers in the NFL, and we both came to the conclusion we were a little iffy on it.
It's a light weekend. You could maybe find a 2-team teaser pleaser, but you got to see some movement on a half point, a hook, one way or the other would really open the door to a couple of possibilities. As the lines sit on a Thursday, no sir, no teasing.
Tomorrow, maybe things change on a Libations Friday, and we'll let you know if they do. We're not going to ignore that key information that helps set you up for the weekend. We know what we're doing here. You're sitting down, you're relaxing. It's your weekend. It's your time. And maybe you intensified the weekend with a little juicy juice.
Ain't their time.
No.
It ain't their time.
It's your time. Dose! All right. I did take Texas A&M -6.5.
Yeah, against Alf and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
What a mess. What a mess of a situation at Mississippi State, man. I'm relieved we did not hire him. I remember so many people say, oh, bring him in. It'll be fun.
For the one game, Yeah.
Oh, he'll probably have another one this year.
He might have thrown for 5 bills against Miami.
Yep. And then we
He
would
was
have been
42-39.
Yeah. Well, or won that game, and we would have been singing his praises, only to have him, lose to like the next 5 teams we play by 5 touchdowns. Like, what the hell is going
Louisville
on
holds
here?
us under
Yeah,
10.
Yeah, just bizarre stuff like that. All right, that's the Redemption Thursday wagers. Update you on some FSU talk here in a minute. Getting consistent. I think people now, they hear the music. They know the deal. They know what's coming up on a Redemption Thursday. A little DSG on DFS right here on the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Downs and St. Germain Research. Full-service market research firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida. Have been since 1981. Downs and St. Germain Research conducts surveys and focus groups for local, state, and research conducts, local, state. You could do it, and national, Jeff. Don't skip national. National organizations. Researching to win your fantasy weekend is fun, but researching to strengthen your organization, well, that's a winning strategy online at dsg-research.com. And, before this segment's over, because I just butchered the hell out of the read, I'll do it again. I'll double down on it. That's what I do. Dr. Joseph St. Germain joins us right now. How are you, good sir?
I'm great. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm not reading well. But it's okay. It happens. I try to rush through it because I'm so anxious to talk to you. I get excited. I like to do this stuff. I like what we talk about. I like the information. I like to learn, and I want to get straight to it. So let's start with that. Let's start with DFS roster construction, right? Philosophy here is what you want to talk about. Stars and scrubs, balance, all that good stuff. Talk about the slate this week and what you're focusing on.
Yeah, a lot of weeks I tend to do a stars and scrubs for our cash lineups because I like getting like a Ezekiel Elliott and Kamara. They could win you the matchup by themselves, but they also have a pretty high floor. So that's why I tend to do it, and then just try to find the nuggets of value. This week we have the elite tight ends aren't on the main slate. The Kamara and Zeke aren't on the main slate, and the main slate, just so you know, means the early and afternoon games on Sundays. It doesn't include Sunday night and Monday night. So normally I do stars and scrubs. This week will probably be a little bit more balanced. I want to get guys like Alexander Madison, David Montgomery, Kenny Golladay, Robbie Anderson in the lineup. So it's going to be less high price and low price. If you are looking for some really cheap guys, Mooney for the Bears and Jeff Smith, I kind of see that, but I'm probably going to stick to the balance this week.
Tournament stacks for this week. What are you looking at?
Yeah, you always want to stack a tournament because if your guys tank, you weren't going to make any money anyways. So we want to do highly correlated plays. So that means we want a quarterback with some of his receivers. That way, if a guy like Matthew Stafford blows up, he's more likely to throw touchdowns to Golladay and Hawkinson and things like that. So that's why we need to do that with tournaments. So I mentioned one of the stacks I already liked. A couple of others that I may be on are Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Jonnu Smith, and also Cousins, Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. The reason I like those stacks is Henry for the Titans and Madison for the Vikings are probably going to be highly owned. So these guys, even though some of them have high ownership, a little bit less ownership, which is another important thing for tournaments. Because if you have the guys that blow up, but half the field has them, it doesn't help that much. But if 5% has them, now you're well ahead of the rest of the field.
This is kind of fun. I'm learning something here. I've not done the tournament stuff, and so I wondered why the stack was the play, but now I'm learning from you exactly why you do it and what you're looking for there. And you're right. You don't want the common stack. Everybody's got that. Makes sense. What are your picks for this week in terms of the games and the actual numbers?
Yeah, I like a couple sides. It's more fades of who they're playing. I like Pittsburgh -3 against Cleveland. Cleveland's 4-1, which you don't get to say that often, or at least they're actually winning games. But the thing is, Pittsburgh, they have a high pressure rate. Their pressure rate's been 40% on the season, and Baker Mayfield is ranked 33 out of 34 quarterbacks in QBR, or basically performance when facing pressure. And then finally, I like the Niners at home getting 3.5 against the Rams. The Rams are winning games, but the 4 teams they beat are the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Redskins. So they are the NFC East champs. But I think the Rams are a little bit overvalued right now.
Yeah, and it's a weird time right now trying to find sides that we like. I think that's true. Anybody that is a gamer is struggling because you have the COVID issues, you have injury issues, you have just a hard time discovering what teams are. San Francisco has been an injury-riddled mess. They've had problems at quarterback. It's just a tough guess right now with a lot of the numbers. Tom and I love two-team teasers. We've learned all about them. We're in on them now. I won in one of my leagues. I had two-team teasers last week for wins. You've got some teaser options this week. What are they?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and I loved your segment last week about having a drink called the Two Teams Teaser.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, where I'm at right now, they with your Bloody Mary, you get it with a little beer back. A little bit of beer comes with it.
That's
So that's
correct.
a real two-team teaser. If you ever start your bar, if you want it to be the Bloody, you can have that one for free.
I love it.
But there's a lot of teams that are in that spot where they move through the 3 and the 7. The teams that I like the most aren't there right now, but they opened. If you can get Tampa. It's currently at +1, but if Moon moves up a little bit, you can get that 7.5 or 8.5. Or if Miami comes back down from 9 to 8.5, we can tease it down. But the two I'm looking at right now are Baltimore teasing that down against the Eagles down to -1.5. I'll tease up the Redskins to +8.5 versus the Giants. I guess once again I'm picking on the NFC East.
No, I like those two a lot. I especially like the Washington pick there, and then obviously just you basically need Baltimore to win the game. Hey, as an aside, before we sign off, my brother, I did not know that is the rule in the state of Minnesota. I didn't realize that you have to have, a lot of times there are those miniature beers, those miniature Coronas that come with your Bloody Mary. I found that out when I went and saw Eddie Vedder for my 40th birthday in Minneapolis, and afterwards, obviously the next day, we were all getting ready to jump on a flight, and we went into this awesome restaurant that morning. All of us had gone to the show, and we were hurting a little bit, so why not have a Bloody before you jump on the plane? And the guy's like, well, you get this beer with it, and it's 2 for 1. So we were all in good spirits as we boarded the plane, thanks to your wonderful state.
Well, when it's below freezing half of the year, they got to find new options to make it through. So that's one that I support immensely.
Be well, good sir. As always, appreciate it. Enjoy the gaming.
Thanks. You too.
All right, take care. That's our friend Dr. Joseph St. Germain. That's DSG on DFS here on the Jeff Cameron Show. It is brought to you by Downs and St. Germain Research. They are a full-service market research firm located right here in Tallahassee since 1981. Downs and St. Germain Research conduct surveys and focus groups for local, state, and national organizations. Researching to win your fantasy league is a lot of fun, but researching to strengthen your organization, that's a winning strategy. Online at dsg-research.com. More of the Jeff Cameron Show in a moment. what to expect tonight, I don't know. We're in the midst right now, as we speak, of Rays Astros. But the more intriguing game is tonight, for me anyhow. After that cluster you-know-what yesterday, which is so Atlanta Braves, is becoming more and more what they do. Just screw it, man. Get beat in historical fashion. Make sure, by all means, you don't just lose a baseball game, but rather you humiliate yourself in the process.
If I'm taking the position of a Braves fan in this position, though, that's position twice,
yeah,
I'd say, hey, at least if you're going to lose like that, get blown out so we don't use our best setup guys, or our closer, and our bullpen. Because if you're having to play 7 consecutive days, which if this thing goes the distance, there is no off day in the best of 7, then let me have my bullpen arms ready to go for the time when I actually need them, and I could get a result.
Right.
Rather than wasting them in a game where, if the Dodgers walk off in a 2-1 game, they win 3-2, and we just, now we're screwed tomorrow. So at least it's one of those where you find your Johnny Holstaff just to get you through.
I'm talking about the probabilities of it all, though. It's crazy that you could set a record a year ago, and that was obviously bitterly disappointing because that mattered. That was the final game. And the Cardinals drop a 10 spot on you in the first inning. That's the text you sent me that day. And what? It's 10-0. What?
I couldn't believe it. When I set up to work that afternoon, as we gave way for Game 5 of the division series against the Cardinals, I just thought, well, I'm going to listen to the Braves get into the pennant series. All right, that's fine, but I'll have it on in the background. They're a really good broadcast team. And then that inning happened, and I can't tell you. I mean, I was strutting up and down the hallway in here saying, listen to these guys. Oh, my God. I've got to share the news. And you weren't 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away.
I couldn't believe it. I was driving away because the game started. We carried it. I was like, what? I thought I was going to get home and watch the game. I was excited. Anytime you get to a final game, I want to watch. And so then you texted me. I was like, well, that changes my afternoon. I guess we're done here. I mean, what are you going to watch?
And in truth, this Braves group, it's a much more likable team than their group on TBS days in the late 90s, early 2000s. I got no problem with that roster. That roster is actually full of mostly likable people. It's just the rivalry.
Yeah, no, my attitude has shifted there. It's a great broadcast team, and then the team itself is likable. I really like Freddie Freeman a lot, and
they're also pretty first class to us when we have the opportunity to actually get up to Truist now, not SunTrust, but yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, and listen, I've got enough Braves fans out there that I'm certainly pulling for them over the Dodgers, who I care nothing about and never have. So it's like, okay, well, and plus it's funny to me to watch the Dodgers choke stuff away every year, too.
For us, it's very simple. Misery loves company, and what franchise has been tantalized more and more miserable after every season than the Mets? That's who we are. We're just a miserable bunch.
Well, the Braves would be a good answer if I was trying to answer your question. They are tantalizingly close all the time, and then no dice. Thanks for playing. Good fun.
They had the one. It really would have been funny if they didn't get a single one, because then the 14 consecutive division titles would be a total punchline. They're just a quasi-punchline since they did finish the job once. And you have several Hall of Famers. I mean, it's...
Lots of teams have Hall of Famers, Tom. I mean, you got to...
Yeah, meanwhile, here are the Marlins, and they've got 2 world titles.
Yeah, they finally got knocked out, though, and at least that's happened now. Can no longer do the thing that everybody does when they make the playoffs is they don't lose. Well, now they have.
But you can go back, 10, 15 years. When did the Braves even move to Atlanta? I don't know, 60s or 70s?
You got to move,
And, I know Henry Aaron played for him in Atlanta, certainly. But they're the Marlins are, and they've got more world titles. They've got as many as the Mets and the Braves since 1986, if you combine the Mets and the Braves franchises. The Marlins have the same amount. That's just crazy.
And twice as many as the Pittsburgh Pirates have in that time. So there you go. That's always fun. I can make fun of myself as well. By the way, this final segment brought to you by Whidden Glass. Whidden Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. They are Tallahassee's first family and glass replacement, highly respected for their quality of installation, both residential and commercial. Whidden Glass, 222-5781. 222-5781. I guess we will do the probables because that's what we do. Fire it up.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Dodgers, Braves feels important. Feels like if the Dodgers win tonight, Braves fans will feel the pucker factor. It's starting to happen probably already. things couldn't have got off to a better start. But boy, the way that ninth inning played out in the win in Game 2, and then the way the first inning played out yesterday, and the way that we feel right now, wringing of the hands beginning to go around for those guys rooting for the Bravos.
As a Braves fan right now, it's icing on the cake if we can win a game before we get back to Fried and Anderson.
Right.
But if you can go 4-0 with those two on the hill, you might. You're already halfway there.
Then you win.
That's the formula right now because I don't know about these middle guys.
Well, the Dodgers are going to throw Clayton Kershaw. And he was a late scratch, as you guys know, for Game 2. He had a back spasm, which, ouch. If you ever had those are not cool. I've only had it one time in my life, knock on wood. I'm much more apt to have ridiculous cramps in my calf or hamstring pulls and the like. But people get back spasms. You can't move. You can't do anything. So he had to be scratched for that. He's 2-0 this postseason. He's been lights out. He's gone a long way in helping shift the narrative on his postseason career. He's been really, really good. Bryce Wilson is going to start tonight for the Braves. Who? What? Bryce Wilson? Yeah, okay. Bryce is 22 years old. He's never faced the Dodgers before. He's completed 6 innings in just one of his 7 career starts, so it'll be curious. Let's see what Bryce Wilson brings to the table. You got nothing to lose, Bryce.
So Kershaw is a little unlucky in the postseason.
Yeah, he is. He's actually been better than not.
His career whip is just a shade over 1, just barely.
Yeah.
And his whip in the postseason is 1.07. That's still quite good, but his ERA is 4.23, even with this year's starts. So if the ball's been put in play,
it finds a place.
Probably over the fence.
The problem he's had is that he's been prone to that inning you can't have. You know, and so other than that, I think he's been fairly good, and he's been a little unlucky, you're right, but he's been good this postseason. He's allowed 3 runs, and he struck out 19 in 14 innings.
So in his career in the postseason, he's thrown 172 innings. That's, you're on your way to a full season at that point.
Close.
He's given up 26 bombs. That's what it is. It is the home run ball. And I'm looking at his worst season in his career. He gave up 28 home runs just a couple seasons ago in 178 innings. So if you're looking for the outlier of his whole career against his postseason career, it is the long ball that's the killer.
Well, that's what's invariably led to the beginning. It's been that, a 3-run bomb.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't remember any grand slams, but I do remember, 2-run bomb, 3-run bomb, those kinds of things. That's it. That's all, folks. That's the only baseball, because there's a game being played right now, of course. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to have to watch half of it on my phone. My son has a baseball game late tonight, so I'll just do the iPhone thing and watch it. It's an amazing world we live in, man. Technology, that's crazy. Like, I complain all the time about being tethered. So, listen, I have a niece that just turned 16, and she got her driver's license. And my brother called me, and we were talking about it, and I started thinking back to when I got my driver's license. And I was telling him, when you turn 16, that's your first real taste of real freedom. That's the first time you get a taste of real freedom and independence. Because you can get into a car and you can just drive. And there's nothing that anybody can say to you. You're on your own with your thoughts, your music, wherever it is you want to go, that, where you something desirous to see, you can go do it. And my lament for people who are turning 16 in this day and age is that they're not as free as we were. And I realized that is a big loss. And I'm not trying to bring people down who if you're listening to this show and you're about to turn 16 or you just turned 16, but when we turned 16, you could get into a car and there was no way anybody could reach you. You were free. You could go, and I did. I'd go to the beach, or I'd go, and I don't mean like to lay out in the sun. I mean, I'd just go drive down the beach. Or I'd go, if I wanted to a record store and spend hours. Because cell phones didn't exist. You weren't tethered to anything. You have parents who are going to say you have to be home at a certain time maybe, or they'll tell you, hey, listen, have fun. Where you going? be home by 6, be home by 8, whatever it was. But that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And nobody, like, there's nothing beeping to tell you you have an email. Nobody texted you knowing damn well you saw the text, and then you have the weight of not having texted them back because you feel guilty knowing that they know you saw the text and you haven't answered yet. None of that's there. Like that thought, that pathos, it's not there. The sound of the phone, the buzz of an incoming email, none of it was there. You're alone with your thoughts. You are alone, you in the road, wind blowing through your hair, some good tunes. It was fantastic. And kids today don't have that because they're tethered. They're all connected to something. And that is a lament. That's a generational lament. Like, there were things that went on in the 60s that I never got to experience. It came and went before I was a teenager, right? I wasn't born in the 60s. So my dad could rightfully say, oh, I wish you could have seen what it was like in 1966 to have done this. Or for him to be in Miami in the late 50s, like before it was overrun and overcrowded. And every piece of the beach was gone because of a strip mall or some stupid bar, right? He can say that, and that I'll never know what that was. Kids today, unless they choose to put the phone in the house, and which kid who grows up on technology is going to decide not to travel with their phone? Very few of them. And so that's the one great regret, is that you're not truly alone anymore.
Yeah, we were in the middle because we had cell phones, but we didn't have texting. That didn't become popular until I was a junior-ish senior in high school. That's when it was proliferated. But we had the Nextel thing. I told you that I learned my lesson about a pocket dial.
Yeah. Oh,
I was swearing like a sailor. My mom was furious when she picked me up. I'm like, what is
your
about?
problem? Yeah.
I learned that lesson early in life. Kids, I'm sure, still learn that lesson. I don't know. It's all documented, and that sucks. For me, I didn't get my license until I was 18. I didn't have a car to drive around until I was 18, so I would be at the mercy of my friends taking me to the movie theater or something like that.
That didn't drive you nuts not having a car?
It did.
Okay, I was going to say.
It was a point of frustration.
Oh, it would have been a point of contention.
And the little bleep that I was, my protest was, I'm just not going to get a license, so if you need somebody else to drive, you're going to have to go get somebody else. That's why I didn't get one until I was 18. He's like, well, I'm not going to get a car anyway, so what's the difference? What a jerk. I mean, what a jerk move on my part.
Yeah, but it's so 16. It is so 16. It's so funny. It makes me laugh. That's the first time you've done something that sounds like something I would do that would leave you going, Jesus, man, because that you just made me go, Jesus, man.
I've admitted that before. What a selfish little dude I was. Are you kidding me? Like, how spoiled. So you have to drive mom and dad's car on the weekend. You're not going to give me my own. Like, I can't get my own parking spot at school. That's what I was pissed about. I got to get dropped off. All of my friends. And this is where going to the private school where people are driving Lexus cars and Benzes at 16. Ridiculous.
Okay, I know. Yeah.
But they all were there, and I'm the only upperclassman getting dropped off. That was the source of my anger was, wow.
I think it's legit, man.
I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to have to go hop in mom's van to go home while you all hop in your little pleasure machines.
Well, it's certainly first world problems, but I would tell you this, the we call that leaves in the pool problems.
Yeah.
I have a pool to have leaves in the pool. Yep. So, you had leaves in the pool problems back then, but
big time.
But I would say this about that.
What a jerk.
Yeah, you only know you were a jerk because you're 33 now. What I'm saying, that's a legit gripe for a 16-year-old to have. There are gripes that 16-year-olds have every day that are nonsense, that you should just shut the hell up, and you should know it, even at 16, that you're wrong. You didn't. That's a fair complaint. That's nonsense. You should have, even if you had
it was a beater. I don't care.
Right. You should have had a Volkswagen Bug or something.
Well, all my sisters did, first of all.
Well, see, this is growing more and more legit as we talk.
And secondly, my oldest sister.
Come on, Langs. What were you doing?
Who now has her daughter who is in high school.
Yeah.
They've already got a car for her, and they are way tighter on things than my parents were.
Right.
So if my sister, who runs a pretty tight ship in Marietta, Georgia, can spring for an old 4Runner.
Whatever.
Yeah,
yes.
It's an old 4Runner. That's a heavy car.
Yeah.
What are we doing here, man? Listen, I can't get my own parking spot?
We had a similar situation in my youth. I had to save up to pay for half of my car. So any car I got, my stepdad would match whatever it was I saved with my summer job. My summer job was at that stupid ice cream store at the Don where I was stealing quarters out of the video game machine. You know how much money I was making there? Minimum wage, which back then was like $3 an hour. So I had no money. What the hell car am I buying with that? So He says, whatever you bring to me at the end of the summer, I'll match it, and then we'll buy a car for that amount. He's trying to teach me work ethic. I get all that. He's in responsibility. You got to have some skin in the game so that you care for the car. It all makes sense. Now, my stepdad was a very successful attorney. Okay, I didn't quite have the country club life at the level you did, but it's close. We did all right. We lived in a nice home in a nice area.
It was a public golf course that we had a membership to, sir.
So here's what I'm
open tee times.
Here's what I'm telling you. So he had money. We had a nice house. My mom drove a 528E BMW. She did all right for herself. Everything was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I pony up $1,000. He gives me $1,000. I get this sweet ass. I miss it to this very day. Volkswagen Bug.
Well, with inflation, that's got to be about $8-9 these days.
I don't know what it was, but the thing is, I love that Bug. But the point was, there were people. David Elliott, if you're out there, you know who you are. His mother was a teacher. I think his dad made a paltry sum. He's driving a brand new Honda Accord. And what is going on here?
Yeah.
You guys act like cars are things that we just cannot have, and yet all around me, broke asses everywhere driving these sweet cars. Now, that is privilege. That is unbelievable.
My oldest sister got a Dodge Shadow that was off the showroom floor. It had like the cool triple striping and stuff. My next sister got a Mitsubishi Eclipse. There you go.
Okay.
The one with like the half moon lighting in the back.
Yeah, I didn't like the Eclipse.
It was before the one with the spoiler on it.
Those were awful.
It was the year before that.
Okay,
but
good.
it had the automatic seatbelt things that
so
were
it
outlawed
seemed like
later.
a big deal. Yeah.
2-door. And then my next sister got 2 Corollas.
So
One of them was wrecked, and the other one...
Dude, the Corolla back in the day was a serious piece of machinery.
It was.
Yeah, I liked them. They drove smooth.
It was black with a gold stripe down the side. It was a nice Corolla.
Lakewood High School.
For me...
Nothing. You get nothing. They couldn't even
Set
get
of
a
steak
hand-me-down.
knives.
Yeah,
Set of steak
that's
knives.
right. That's what you get.
But then when I came back for school, it's because here's the other part of it, to be fair. I didn't commit to staying in state for school.
So
they said, why the hell are we going to get you a car?
Correct. Yeah. There's another side to the story that you weren't revealing.
There is, but the used car route was something that
You
I
coulda-
thought was reasonable. I'll drive it to New York if that's where I'm going to school. I get a good trip up the coast. Cousins in Virginia.
That was good.
Would have been fun.
That was good. Front row. No, what do we got? What's next? Baseball?
Us. Scuttlebucks.
Oh, I never remember us. I got to make time for us, Tom.
And then the Braves after that. So we go right into the pregame.
Scuttlebucks next. It's good. Then the Braves. Come on, Braves. Win tonight and go ahead and put an end to this, meaning get up 3-1 with your best still on the horizon. Lose tonight, I'm worried for you. I got a bad feeling if you lose tonight. Just letting you know it's out there. It's in the ether. You lose tonight, I feel like you may lose the series 4-2. I feel
sobering.
There's some weird stuff out there. There's some weird mojo. I'm feeling it. Go ahead, win tonight. Surprise everybody. Beat Kershaw. Get it to 3-1. Call it a day. Let's move on.
If you don't win tonight, it'll be like mom's picking you up in the car line. And you're 19.
Much to your shame.
Hey, Mom.
Damn you, mother.